Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Author in Residence, Fix Your Business. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I'm a program assistant at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that is building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. Definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. And second, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. All right, Texas, California, Ohio, Florida, New Jersey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, I'm just going to launch a couple polls to step back and see how everyone's doing today. And we'll use this to guide our future program development. All right, so this one's going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? I'll give everyone just a few moments to submit their answers. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna end the poll, share the results. Looks like optimism is in the lead, but we do have some survival feelings there. So hopefully some of what we talk about will address those feelings. Gonna stop sharing and launch the second poll. What is keeping you up at night? And this one just tells us a little bit more about your current entrepreneurial needs. So I'll give you all few more moments to look through and submit your answers here. Awesome. Gonna end the poll, share these results. All right, looks like finance is in the lead, sales and marketing coming up behind, but all across the board. So thank you. We will take this into account for our future programming. I'm gonna stop sharing that one. And without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Melinda F. Emerson. She is a best-selling author, marketing consultant, small business expert, keynote speaker, social selling expert, media personality, adjunct professor of LinkedIn top voice on small business. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll hand the floor to you.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I was really interested to see your poll because I think it's right in line with what I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm so excited to have the opportunity to share with all of you what I call the 12 P's of running a successful business. So let's jump into it. So first of all, in my introduction, she told you guys I'm a teacher. So I do hope that you all have something to write with, because there's going to be lots of different nuggets I'm going to give you today that hopefully will help you look at your business critically so that you can take your business to the next level. So let me just jump in. First of all, I wanted to give you a little bit about my background. I've actually been in business for 23 years. I'm an international keynote speaker and top small business influencer. I'm a social media guru. I was actually a pioneer. I think I got on Twitter when it was 1 year old. I am an advocate for small business owners. In fact, my mission is to end small business failure. I have a huge resource blog called succeedasYourOwnBoss.com. I also run Small Biz Lady University, and I host the Small Biz Chat podcast. So I have tons of tools, tips, and resources to help you start and grow your small business. In fact, I've written over 5,000 articles about how to start and grow a successful business. And I have 2 very successful books out. So we're going to talk about one of them a little bit later. But how I learned to be the small biz lady is I've run a marketing consulting firm, Quintessence Group, for the last 23 years. And we work specifically with Fortune 500 brands that target the small business market. So I do what's called B2SMB marketing. And my clients include lots of companies you guys have heard of: Visa, Chase, FedEx, Verizon, Google, American Express, just to name a few. Now, I know that I just saw the poll and some of you guys are surviving and some of you guys are optimistic. So the thing is that all of us will go from being survivors to optimists. So it's okay, but it's good to know where you're at, because then you can figure out how you can fix it. Now, the first thing I always ask entrepreneurs, and you guys can put this in the chat, do you remember why you started your business? Because it all goes back to your why. And I kind of look at why like your purpose. Who are you serving? Why did you do this? Why did you put yourself through this thing that we call entrepreneurship? If you can just share in the chat and tell me your why, that's really important, because sometimes you have to remember that, because small business can become drudgery. It can wear you down, and your why can always pick you back up. So I always like to start any presentation just helping people think back to their why. Now, here's some key ideas that I'm just going to put out there. Number one, we are in a recession, and depending on what industry you're in, you already know because you're feeling it. But here's the thing, how has your business changed? Because you're in a recession, what are you doing? Are you pulling back on this? Are you cutting back on this? Or are you moving forward with your marketing, which I always suggest is a good thing. And then, if you're in survival mode or struggle mode, what do you want to do now? It's really important for you to think about, what do you want to do now? Because I don't think interest rates are coming back down anytime soon. Gas prices probably aren't coming down anytime soon. The supply chain issues that you might still be having, those things are not going to get resolved anytime soon. So what are you going to do? Because in any recession, it's about preparing for 3 years from now. It's not about what's going on right now. It's about positioning yourself to thrive 3 years from now. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So the trick to this is that nobody's business is ever fixed. All of our businesses are works in progress. And so it's important to think of it that way. But the other thing I want you guys to also know is that as entrepreneurs, we're special. Everybody can't do what we do. Most entrepreneurs live how most people won't, so we can live how most people can't. I don't know about you guys, but can you imagine going and asking somebody for vacation time at this point? No, and you don't have to do that because you work 18-hour days. So when you decide to take some time off, you can just do that. Now, what I'm going to walk you guys through over the next 30 minutes is really what I call the 12 P's of running a successful business. And what this is based on is actually sort of like the 12 key areas of a business that you need to focus on, any of which can clothesline you on any given day. So we're gonna walk through. So let's get started with the first P. The first P is preparation. Now, you guys are already in business, so I'm not saying prepare to start your business. What I'm saying is, I don't believe that you don't know what's wrong with your business. I believe you haven't made the decision that you're ready to fix it yet. So let's say you've got pain in the butt employee that antagonizes you and everyone else, but they do a good job, so you just keep tolerating it. But they are just not good for your culture. Let's say you've got a vendor or a customer that always beats you up on price and always pays you late. Yeah, that's a customer that needs to be fired, right? So those are the things that you've got to think through, like, okay, what are the 3 things in your business that you've been tolerating that you need to fix? Or maybe it's you finally need to get your 2022 taxes done. You haven't done it yet, right? So it could be people, it could be tasks, but either way, I know about the things that are broken in your business. And now I want to give you the inspiration today to actually fix it. So let's go. Number 2 is your purpose. And your purpose is really important because I believe that purpose is 3 things. It's your mission, it's your vision, and it's your passion. And in the middle of all of that, I would write the word purpose, because it takes all of those things to get you to your purpose. And when I say mission, your mission should be something big. It should be something you're always striving for. Like, my mission is to end small business failure. That's a big mission. I've worked my whole life to do that. But my vision was to become America's #1 small business expert. And I'm proud to say that I have been that person since 2011. And then my passion, though, why I do it, it's because I love entrepreneurs. I want you to win. We're not competing because I want you to win too. So for me, all of that comes together and gives me my big picture goal, which is my mission to end small business failure. And that is my purpose. I'm very fortunate because my calling is also my occupation, is also my avocation. But it's also about your leadership mindset, because you have to get in that mode. You have to be thinking that way. You always have to remember your vision and your mission. And so, what are you reading? Have you hired a coach? What is it? Are you in a mastermind group that's feeding your leadership? Leadership in a business is something that I think sometimes people forget to work on. We work on our business skills, we work on our negotiation skills, we work on even our marketing and sales skills. But how often do we actually work on our leadership skills? And that's something that we need to do, because you're the leader, you're setting the culture in your business. Now, number 3, people. And this is a big one. When most people ask me, out of the 12 P's, what are the most common ones that people struggle with? People is usually at the top of my list, right? Because if you have people, that also means you have a propensity for problems. But it also means that that's another opportunity to look at your leadership. Because the number 1 thing I ask people who want to complain to me about their employees is, well, what is it like to work for you? Are you a good boss? Are you a bad boss? Are you kind of boss that everybody knows what kind of day you're having by how you're talking to people? You act like you would kick the dog, right? So you need to look at what you're giving off, because a lot of times when entrepreneurs have people problems, 50% of the time it's the business owner. And it's because people haven't taken the time to really consider their communication style. What kind of leader are you in your business? Are you a coaching leader? Are you a consensus leader? Are you a decisive leader? Or are you Captain Bligh, do what I say, that's it? I mean, what kind of leader are you? And then the other thing is, have you looked at your employees? Do you know what each of your employees' love language is? Some people like money, some people like recognition, some people like time off, some people like more responsibility, right? You have to figure out what your main motivator is of your employees. And it is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. You actually have to pay attention to these people so that you can figure out how to give them their praise in their love language. And also, it's about onboarding. A lot of times we as small business owners, we hire people and then throw them the keys and say, good luck, right? Formal onboarding, man, whatever. I got to get these donuts out the door. So it's really important for you to think about how you can onboard people. And frankly, the longer you onboard your employees, the more likely they are to stay with you. And at this point in business, a core employee is someone who's been with you 2 years, because people are very transient and they are loyal down to the last dollar. So you really have to think about how you can support your employees, because they are the front line of your business. They are interacting with your customers. So you have to really think about that. So remember, 50% of all business problems are not so well hidden personal problems. So make sure that you are not the biggest problem in your business. Now let's talk about profit. How are you minding your money? Do you have money systems in your business? Do you pay an invoice just because somebody sends you an invoice? Or do you pay invoices twice a month on the 15th and the 1st of the month, right? You need to make sure that you're always managing your cash flow. Cash flow is king. But the other thing is that are you tracking the profitability in your business year over year? First of all, have you done the research to know what is an appropriate profitability amount in your industry? For example, in the restaurant industry, it is actually 10 to 12% is a good profitability. But in a consulting business, it could be 30%, right? So do you know what the profitability measure is in your industry? And are you tracking your profitability year over year? Do you know what your most profitable products and services are? Because 9 times out of 10, especially when the economy gets tight, you probably need to stop doing some stuff that really isn't making you that much money. You've got to focus on your big sellers, offer deals on those so you can keep your pipeline filled and keep those cards and letters coming, as I say. So you want to make sure that you're looking at money, that you're utilizing lines of credit effectively, that you're if you're in a situation where you're in a really positive cash flow, you've got a great big, set of contracts. Now is the time to go and borrow money. Now is the time to go and get that SBA 7A loan and buy a building, or apply for a line of credit from a bank or a community development financial institution. It's really when you don't need it is the best time to go get it. When your back is against the wall, bank is not going to help you. And all the other thing to think about too, guys, banks turn down 8,000 loans a day in America. So it's not, you just really have to understand what you're dealing with so that you can know how you can build good money systems in your business. And certainly this goes without saying, you should be talking to a bookkeeper or accountant once a month for your books to be reconciled, because it is not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And you cannot let your fear of math be why you don't know what's going on in your business. So don't wait till tax time to be talking to a professional accountant or CPA. Be talking to one monthly, at the least quarterly. Processes. Now, one of the biggest challenges that I see in a lot of small businesses is that you might still be doing there's some of us that don't know the difference between queen bee work and worker bee work. And so you spend your time entering data into QuickBooks when that's not even what you do well. You want to make sure that as the business owner, you are focusing on your most high valued activities. And the only way to do that is to document your processes. What are you doing every day? What are you doing every week? What are you doing every month? What are you doing every quarter? Make a list of it and look at the things that you really don't need to be doing. Because if your best skill in your business is selling, there's no way you should be touching QuickBooks other than to print a check, maybe to create an invoice. But honestly, you want to make sure that you're spending your time doing the thing that's the closest to money in your business. And so you want to build systems, you want to document those, because that's also how you're going to train these employees that you're going to bring on. So you want to make sure that somebody else knows how the cake is made, or someone else knows how the shirt goes in the box with the tissue paper and the sticker and 2 little smelly goods that go in the box, right? You want to make sure you document all this stuff so that it can be followed and it can be done your way without you having to stand there and make sure. Now, once you have all of your processes and systems documented and you know what things you need to offload, that's when it's time to look at productivity tools. And it's really important for you to be utilizing productivity tools. But if you're going to take on a tool, get the training for the tool. Too often, there's all kind of people out here playing for software that they use 10% of. Or maybe you bought this big CRM system and nobody uses it. Well, that doesn't make sense. Pay for the training so that everybody knows how to use it. Then you can hold people accountable for not using it. But just assuming that everyone knows how to use your software, that's a bad assumption. So get the training so that you can really leverage it for your business. And there's so many productivity tools out here. Make sure that you're asking other entrepreneurs, what they're using. That'll save you some time as you think about it. And often too, on my blog at succeedasyourownboss.com, I'm often putting out lists of best sales tools, best CRMs, that kind of stuff. So you can always check back on my blog for recommendations for software and things like even how to build up your business credit. Now, number 7 is performance. And this is really important because performance is really about measurement. So I have a question for you guys, and I want you sort of like to say yes or, in the chat. How many of you guys are measuring things monthly in your business? How many of you are measuring your Google Analytics every month in your business? How many of you guys know what is driving traffic to your website because you're looking at your Google Analytics? All right, here's another one. How many of you guys are looking at your email open rates? Email open rates. How many people are open? Your click-through rates. All right, I got a harder one. How many of you guys know your cost per sale or your cost per lead? And you guys out here buying ads, using online marketing? Are you looking at what your cost per click is with your online marketing? Yeah, all of these things should be measured. You really also, depending on if you sell B2C or B2B, you also want to be looking at things like your close ratio. How many proposals are you putting out that close? And if they don't close, do you know why? But one of the biggest things that I see people not measure is marketing. And it's really important that you look at your marketing, because if you're not measuring your marketing, you might as well drive down the street and just throw money out the window out your car, because that's tantamount to you not measuring your marketing. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing 1, maybe 2 marketing initiatives at a time so that you can track and see what is actually driving leads, what is making the phone ring, what is it, so that you know. And it's important for you to do social media, but the reason why you need to look at your Google Analytics is because you want to make sure you know which social media sites are actually driving traffic to your website. Because at the end of the day, you do social media to drive traffic. So it's really important that you're tracking that. Number 8 is product. And this is really important, especially at this time of year, because you want to evaluate what you sell. And you don't want to evaluate it for selling right now. You want to evaluate, is it going to be relevant 3 to 5 years from now? You want to be looking at your industry trends. What's changing? Is there some new technology coming along like ChatGPT that's going to challenge all the marketers out there? You really need to make sure that you understand what your customers' future needs are, not what their current needs are, because you're already too late at current needs. So try to build partnerships with your clients so that you can get that inside information, and then be reading trends so that you can offer them good suggestions and information. Really, really important. Make sure your product is still relevant to your target audience. And then number 9 is your presence. And your presence isn't just about social media and your website, even though honestly, your website is your number 1 sales tool. So if you have limited resources, your website is what you need to be focused on for sure. But it's also about your brand offline. When is the last time you updated your logo, or maybe gave your logo or website a new color story? There's always things you can do to give your brand more energy. So just look at that and look at how you can build more content to demonstrate your thought leadership. If you are, scared of video, don't be scared of video. Pick up your phone, record a 15 or 20-second video and just put it out there. See video is being responded to 62% more than any other type of content. So no matter what, you got to figure out how to be doing video. So there's lots of things you can do out here, whether it's Clubhouse, whether it's write blog posts, do a podcast, do a video series, build up a large YouTube following. It doesn't matter. You really only need to be doing 1, maybe 2. And they should be the 1 or 2 social media platforms where your best target customer is spending time online. That is really, really what it's about. Doing 4 or 5 sites, unless you sell social media services, that is a waste of your time. You should not be doing that. Now let's talk about prospects. Prospects are important because a lot of times what messes businesses up is not having a really solid sales process. And some of you out here want to hire salespeople and you don't have a sales process. Well, your new salesperson you want to hire is not going to save your business. So it's important that you have a system to generate leads. You have a system to nurture leads. You have a system to follow up and close sales. And then you have a system to follow up after the sale. Because guys, after the sale is more important than the sale itself. Existing customers are 65% more likely to do business with you if you ask them. And a lot of times we're leaving that money on the table. So you want to make sure that you're following up with your customers, that you're loving on your customers, that you're making them feel special, making exclusive offers for them, ask them for their opinion, getting their feedback, because it's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go out and get a new one. In fact, a new customer is only 5 to 20% likely to close. An existing customer, 65%. So think about that. Who should you be chasing? Your existing customers for sure. But spend the time, particularly if you are thinking about bringing on a salesperson or bringing on a sales team, make sure you already have your sales process down and that you have proper tools like a CRM system for them to use. You have a proper deck for them to go out and pitch with. Make sure you set them up for success and that you're ready. Number 11 is planning. And what I love about this is a lot of times, when you first get started in business, people will tell you to write a business plan. And I believe in business plans. But once your business is up and rolling, sometimes you just need a new strategic plan or a new marketing plan. And so you want to take the time to write that down, because things that you write down are far more likely to happen, to get accomplished. So you want to take the time to write a 1-page marketing plan or a 2-page marketing plan with what you're going to do by when, how much you're going to invest each month. Are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to hire someone? Do you have a referral? Do you know who you're going to ask to do this for you, right? I would say always start small. I would say always test things, but write your plan down so that you can have something to hold yourself accountable to as you're going through your process. We are only in March. You still have a lot of opportunity to make 2023 an amazing year in your business. So work on it. Get your plan together. Get your team together to help you brainstorm it. All of these things will be extremely valuable to you as you try to accomplish your sales goals in your business. And the last P, I'm going to give you guys a hint. It is, I guess, whenever I think of the last P, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And who is the most famous character that anyone's ever written about in Philadelphia? Rocky, right? So what is Rocky? Rocky was the underdog and he always came back because Rocky was always about perseverance. Right? You have to stay ready for tomorrow. You have to make sure that you have the team that's going to get you to tomorrow. Do you have the right financing to get you to tomorrow? Like I said, now is the time for you to look at everything you're going to need to get where you're going and get it in place. And there's also the time to prune the tree. If there's people that need to go, if there's customers that need to go, if there's vendors that don't deliver on time, this is the time when you can retool what's going on in your business to set you up for where you're trying to go. And everybody can't go there with you, but you do have to persevere. But persevere is another word for plan. You really need to think about what the future needs of your customers are going to be and how you're going to be there to meet them so that you can weather any recession or any downturn in business or even losing a big client. You always want to have your next play ready to go. So with that, I have a few action items for you guys. Number one, I want you to decide if you're ready to fix your business. I want you to think about why you're in business and why you should still be running your business. I need you to examine your ego because sometimes you might be what's wrong with your business. Look and see whether it's time to refresh your website or your brand online or offline. And then review what systems you can automate You can automate a lot of stuff about billing. You can automate a lot of stuff about marketing. So look into that. If you don't have any sales funnels, look into that. That is important for you to build your long-term sales systems for your business. Now, here's the deal. I want you to fix it now or fix it when you can, but just promise me that you're going to tighten these things up and fix them in your business. Now, I wrote a whole book about this stuff. It's called Fix Your Business. I also have a workbook that goes along with it as well. And you guys can get those at smallbizladyuniversity.com or on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. And here's my contact information. If any of you would like to connect with me, I am Small Biz Lady on every social platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. On LinkedIn, I am actually my government name, Melinda Emerson. I also am Melinda Emerson on YouTube. But certainly you even can connect with me on TikTok. I am the Small Biz Lady on TikTok. So I would love to connect with you. I would love to hear from you. And if my content has been helpful, I would love to even get a recommendation from you. So with that, I will turn it back over to my colleagues and I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was just such a great, straightforward overview. We do have some great questions here, so let's jump right in. So we have one, this is kind of a two-parter question. So the first is kind of, looking back on all of the experience that you've had and everything you've learned, what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self and why?
Wow. I think the advice that I would give to my 25-year-old self is that you're already enough. I think when I was younger, I struggled with imposter syndrome a lot because I was young and I looked younger than I was, right? So whenever we would go places with my team, no one ever thought I was the one in charge, right? And I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder over it.
Yeah.
So I really had to I remember when I finally got over it, you know what I mean? And it was like, wow, like, why did that take so long? So I would definitely say the best advice I could give myself is that you're already enough. You're going to be okay. I promise.
I love that. And it's just like such a good affirmation to tell yourself like on a regular basis, because we often don't hear it from other people enough. So you can tell yourself that. And that's just great.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to be your own hype man. That's the other advice I would give myself. Sometimes you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you are that girl. Go get her, right?
Exactly.
You have to do that. You have to do that for yourself.
I love it. Awesome. And then the second part of the question kind of focuses on, some of the points that you mentioned throughout your presentation, but what do you feel is the most common reason for people failing or giving up?
Well, gosh, there's a lot of reasons. I think the number one reason is because people have a fantasy of grandeur about starting a business. Like for some reason, they think they're going to have more time, like they're going to be able to meet the bus. It's like the school bus. No, you eventually get to that, but it's not going to start out like that.
Right.
It's a lot of hard work. There is an upfront hazing process involved in running a business. And if you're used to being in a corporation where there is an IT department and there's sales and there's marketing and all of a sudden you got to do all those jobs, it can really overwhelm people if they really didn't think it through before they did it. Which is why I'm a big fan actually of people developing life plans first before they ever write a business plan, because I think you need to figure out what you want and why you want it, because you may just need to get another job. You might you might not need to get out here and become an entrepreneur because it's hard. I will never tell anybody it's not.
Totally. No, yeah. And that's so important to think about. And that kind of goes back to that why, and really examining what it is you're doing and the purpose of it. I love that. So, you talked kind of about how a lot of entrepreneurs know what the problem is with their business, but they're not really ready to fix it. And that's kind of like an internal struggle. So can you talk about some of the biggest external challenges that small businesses face today?
I think one of the biggest challenges is hiring the wrong people. And what happens is you hire somebody because they need a job versus the job you need them to do. And it's even worse when it's like a friend or a cousin or something. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a big fan of not hiring somebody you can't fire. So there's all these people. And every time I say this, I get letters and emails from people. I work with my best friend or I work with my husband and we're awesome. Okay, that's great. But I know tons of other marriages that were destroyed because people work together. So yeah. I think that you really want to think through who you're bringing on your team, because you really want to make sure, that you're bringing on a thinker and not a doer. A lot of times when we're young in business, we bring on people. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And they can, but nobody's proactively thinking about how your business makes money other than you. And that's a problem.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you are hiring the best people you possibly can and not necessarily the best people you can afford. Like, even if you have to stretch to hire somebody, hire the right person. Interview multiple people. One person is not enough, right? So make sure you make good hiring decisions in your business and hire people as soon as you can, because your business can only grow as far as your two hands can reach. So you need some more hands. You need some help.
So this is kind of like a follow-up question there. Once you kind of have that person on your team, or I guess kind of still in the process of looking, how would you kind of how important is it to kind of have people on your team that are aligned with your business's vision versus somebody who can just do the job well? Like, how important is it to emphasize people who are, behind the vision of your company?
Yeah, if somebody's not on your vision, they're not on your team. And so you need to make sure that not only are people aligned with your vision, but they're aligned with the culture of your company. Because a lot of times what happens, and I've seen this, I've got some companies that I coach in the franchising space. So like they need salespeople, and they could end up with this $1 million salesperson that's a jerk and nasty to everybody in the office. Well, guess what? They gotta go. Even though they're the goose laying the eggs, it's like, it's not worth them upsetting all the other people that work for you.
Totally.
So no, you gotta protect the culture of your business at all times. And you don't need divas. You gotta be the only diva in your business.
Yep. No, for sure. Yeah. And so then, once you do have that kind of star team, how can you best, what can founders do to best support them in the roles that they take on?
Well, we have to be willing to train people. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of small business owners make, but it's the one thing we can really borrow from big business, right? You do have an onboarding and a training period. And also you have to do ongoing training. And it doesn't have to be, oh, let's all learn how to use the CRM system. It literally could be, you heard about this great business book and you bought 15 for everybody on the team. And on Friday, we're having a lunch and learn. I'm treating for lunch. Hey, everybody, let's read this book and talk about it. Right. So there's lots of ways to grow people that isn't like specific skills training in as much as it's leadership training.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. So kind of switching gears a little bit, as we've talked about, like how important like that support is for the entrepreneur, kind of in the process of looking for a mentor or coach, what are some questions that entrepreneurs could maybe ask themselves, or things that they could think about to kind of determine if somebody would be a good fit as a coach, as a mentor, even as maybe an advisor for you in your business?
Well, first of all, if you're looking at somebody to be a mentor or an advisor to you, you've got to figure out, does this person want me to win? Like, does this person like me? Like, do they trust me enough to open up their Rolodex and really help me? It's one thing to give me advice. It's a whole nother thing to pick up somebody and make an opportunity happen because you called somebody on the phone, right? And so you have to engage and see if people like you like that, right? But at the same time, you have to earn that. right? I'm not opening up my Rolodex after one phone call with you.
Totally, yeah.
Unless I really like you, but I think it's one of those things where, mentor-mentee relationships are still give to get relationships. And so you do have to figure out, what do you have to give?
Yeah.
You can't just pick people clean, and everybody's sick of that, right? So you want to make sure that if you have something that you want, that you have something to give. And it is extremely important. And the other thing too is, if somebody gives you advice, you better take it, or you better have a doggone good reason why you didn't.
Yeah.
Because that's a great way to burn a relationship. So you got to make sure you're coachable if you're going to pursue a mentor-mentee relationship. Now, let me speak to coaching, because I think coaching is different than mentoring and being
totally.
And frankly, I sadly, the pandemic has grown this amazing crop of coaches and experts, right? And so here's the thing I want you guys to know. If you think that you need a coach, make sure the person coaching you is not only in the coaching business. You better be able to find something else they did to learn how to be a coach. And going and getting a little certification that they're a coach is not enough, right? So you need to make sure that the person coaching you is 10 steps ahead of you, not one step ahead of you. And there's all these people out here who've watched one of my videos on YouTube and now they're an expert. No, that's not how it works. So just beware. I actually did a podcast a few years ago called Beware of New Business Barbie. New Business Barbie wants to coach you, and she barely know more than you.
Yeah.
She read one book more than you, and now she's your coach. No, you need to make sure that you can Google them, that you can see things they've written, the interviews they've done, expertise that they have been asked for.
Right. Before
you hire them as a coach. Because it breaks my heart to talk to people after they got ripped off by somebody. The other thing too is, beware of celebrity folks that now have coaching programs, because you're not going to get any time with them. You're going to get their people. And you know what I mean? So it's like, please don't, and I don't want to name names because I'm sure I'll get an email about it. But there's lots of people who are on TV that now suddenly have coaching programs. Be careful with that. Because you're in their wheel, you really want someone that can give you the time and that can really help you get where you're going. And I'm a firm believer in, you don't need a coach long term. You need a coach 6 months, 12 months tops, but they should be working themselves out of a job. If they're trying to sign you to a 2-year contract and all that, no, that's not it's not the right coach for you. Coaches should be working themselves out of a job.
No, that's so many important things to think about. And, I think the difference that you specified between coaches and mentors is so important. And a lot of times it people can really, it's easy to present yourself in a way that,
let me rent a Bentley and stand in front of it and tell you that's how, that's how you want to live like me. You need to be coached by me. That should not be the selling point.
Right.
There's a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. A lot of Instagram experts. I'm like, oh God, it's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. So you got to do your research. Love it. So we have a question here about pivoting, so this person's kind of asking if you've pivoted from your original idea, but your new idea isn't really selling, how do you, this is something that's a passion, how do you turn your passion into kind of this organization that can grow and deliver value to people and, maybe eventually turn a profit?
You got to talk to the customer. You have to make sure that the customer wants what you're selling, because you can have all the passion in the world. I'm passionate about music, but I am not auditioning for The Voice. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really, really know your customer. And I'm not talking about demographic information, how old she is, where she lives, is she educated, does she have kids? No, I'm talking about what motivates her. What is her aspiration?
Yeah.
What is her goal? What is holding her back from achieving her dreams and goals? When you know that, you can sell anything to her,
Yeah. I love
especially if
that.
you're helping her accomplish that. But
Yeah.
if you just pivot because you think this is what the market needs, you didn't have enough information before you did that pivot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of brings me to another question here, kind of related to marketing. It's become just so complex with the boom of social media and this introduction of all this AI technology. So, you know, how should business owners think about prioritizing different marketing channels, their voice and communicating with potential customers? How might that look different with the types of platforms and technology that we have now?
Well, I think that you're right. It is really complicated, but there's four things you got to be doing no matter what. You've got to have a great website. You have to have a content strategy. Whether you're a B2C business or a B2B business, you must have a content strategy. You
Mhm.
got to use social media. But as I said earlier, 1 or 2 sites is plenty. 5 is way too many unless you're selling social media services. And you got to use email. You have to build sales funnels. You have to build lead pages. You have to build lead magnets, right?
Mhm.
These are things that you have to do. And then we can get into SEO and ads, right? But bare bones basics, these 4 have to be happening. Now, if you don't like to write, do you need to start a blog? No, right? You need to figure out what kind of content you can do that makes
Mhm.
sense for your business and does not completely stress you out and give you hives, right? So
Right.
for me, I have a journalism degree undergrad. I love to write. I've written several books, right? So writing is my superpower. So you're not going to be able to outdo me with that. But videos are great, and you can literally
Yeah.
do it for your phone, and they're 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be this big Broadway production of video. Now, once upon a time it did, but now it doesn't.
Right.
User generated video is perfectly acceptable. Matter of fact, the more real you are, the more people appreciate it. So I
Yep.
think that you've got to have the content, you've got to invest in copywriting and somebody to develop funnels for you, right? So those are things that I think are musts.
Mhm.
Depending on what you're selling, ads are important too. Certainly if you're selling B2C, ads are important. Even if you're selling on Amazon, you have to know how to run ads on Amazon, because guess
Mhm.
what? There's 2 million small business sellers on Amazon. We're not talking about the big corporations that sell on Amazon. I'm talking about
Right.
there's 2 million small business sellers on Amazon. So
Mhm.
at the bare minimum, you're competing with those people, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to compete on price. You better figure out something else you're competing on, because the race to the bottom is a race nobody wins. So you want to know where your customer hangs out online, how you can engage them. You got to test stuff, go slow. $50 is good to test some ads to see if they work, right?
Mhm.
Then when you figure out they work, okay, then put 1,000 behind it. But
Right.
test stuff,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of ways to lose money fast out here now on the internet. So just know your customer, focus on your customer, talk to your customer,
Mhm.
figure out why they buy from you or why
Mhm.
they're not buying from you.
Yeah.
If you can answer that, then you can figure out where you need to be online to engage them.
Mhm. Yeah, and so you touched on this a little bit before, and I think some of what you're saying might kind of feed into this answer. But as we are potentially headed into a recession, what are some of the key things that business owners should be looking at right now in their business to stay on track?
We are in a recession. I don't know why people keep pretending like we're not. Every time Powell raises the interest rate, he's putting the nail closer and closer. And depending on what industry you're in, you're feeling it already.
Mhm.
I think when it comes to a recession, the people that won during the pandemic, the people that won in the recession that happened in 08, 09 were the people that kept on marketing. So you got to figure out where you can find budget to keep marketing, but you want to be smart with it. You don't need to be doing 10 things. You need to be doing 1 or 2 things well and testing it and, perfecting it and making sure you've got the right audiences and stuff if you're doing like online ads on Google and Facebook and that kind of stuff. I also think it's about looking at your internal systems. Right now, when things slow down, is actually the best time to retool what's going on in your business. Document your systems, build your sales processes, tighten up your sales process. If you got one, look at it. Is any, is any of your sales funnel leaking? Like you got to look at what's going on. And this is a time to go inward and tighten up stuff. So when the market comes back, you ready.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's like using that time productively, like, not kind of letting that downturn bring you down to where you're not really making more progress, but kind of using it as motivation. I love that. That's awesome. So, access to capital is a big issue for small businesses. What are some things that business owners can do to overcome the barriers needed to acquire the funding that would allow them to continue delivering value to their customers?
It's tough. I mean, people who have savings have options. People who have, balance available on their credit cards have options. I mean, I think that you've got to there's lots of money out here, but you've got to be credit worthy, right? You still, even to get a CDFI loan, and a CDFI is a community development financial institution, you still have to have at least a 620 credit score to get a loan from them, but they are stringent. I mean, they're as stringent as the bank. So and let alone going to a bank or going to SBI or SBA, things like that. So I think it's important for you to kind of look at what your options are. Be talking to people 3 months before you need financing, right? You don't want to walk in there the day your hair's on fire and you're going to miss payroll in 2 weeks. That's too late. So you want to, and you want to do, even if you get like a line of credit, just know that a line of credit is only going to be 10 to 15% of your gross revenue. That's all they're going to give you. So if your revenues are not over, 250, the most you're going to get is $25,000. And then remember that line of credit are for short-term purchases. You're not doing big marketing plans, marketing initiatives with lines of credit. Lines of credit is like if you got to make payroll and you're waiting on a check from a client. That's how you use it. When you get the money, you pay it back, right? You don't want to be carrying big balances on lines of credit because you want to use it when you need it. Right. You be there and be available. So financing is hard, but I say don't just go to the bank. Look at credit unions, look at CDFIs. They tend to be a little bit more lenient. No,
that's awesome. And we have a couple questions here just about your personal experience, and you're kind of known in the business world as small biz lady, as you've mentioned. So can you tell us more about your personal journey? What kind of has sparked your passion for helping entrepreneurs fix their businesses, and just some of the lessons you've learned along the way, like kind of what keeps you motivated?
Well, my son keeps me motivated. He's my whole heart. When I started my business as the small biz lady. So I started my business 23 years ago, but I became the small biz lady 14 years ago. And so when I started my business as small biz lady, or I should say I started my second business as a small biz lady, my son was like 2, and he's now 17. So he has been the unofficial mascot of, Small Biz Lady Enterprises for a long time.
That's so awesome.
So he motivates me. I'm a divorced professional mom, and I have a son that has special needs, so which is something a lot of people don't even know about me. But it was important to me to be an entrepreneur, to be able to control my schedule so I could do what I needed to do for my son. And all the counselors and speech therapists and occupational therapists and all the stuff we went through to get him to the point where he's about to go to college and major in computer science. I'm so excited.
That's so exciting.
But I also think that, I actually really love entrepreneurs, and that's really drives me. But I'm an accidental business coach. Like I recently got my MBA. The reason why I wrote my first book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, was because it was the book I had never read. And I really was like, I knew that I would have run my business better if I had had better advice. And you guys, I started my business in 1999. So get in your time machine with me and go back, right? There wasn't anybody in mainstream media giving out small business advice.
Right.
And so I decided to put myself in charge of ending small business failure. And that's what I did. And the first thing I did was write this book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 months. But the funny thing is that, you know, then the market crashed. Then 08, 09, the market crashed. And my publisher called me and said, listen, we don't think anyone's thinking about entrepreneurship right now. We're going to shelf your book until March of 2010. And this was September of 08. And I was like, holy macaroni, Batman, what am I going to, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine said, Melinda, if I were you, I would learn this social media thing. It's starting to become, it's going to be the next big thing in marketing. Right. This is 08. So Twitter was 1 year old. Right. So totally. I go to get on Twitter. Right. I type in my name, Melinda Emerson, and I get this polite note back. This name is already taken. So then I'm like, what do you mean there's another Melinda Emerson? Are you serious? Right. So anyway, thanks to Facebook, I found out there are actually 7 Melinda Emersons. But but I'm the only Black one, and I own melindaemerson.com. So I know they all know who I am. But that said, that's the day I became Small Biz Lady, because I needed a nickname. And so it was all because I could not get my name on Twitter. I became the Small Biz Lady. And what we know is that is the best branding accident that ever happened to me. Yep. There you go. I love it. That's the story. That's how I became Small Biz Lady.
Amazing. So we are just out of time, but if you had one key takeaway, just a piece of wisdom that you wanted to leave with the audience, it could be personal or professional, what would that be?
Well, I think that there's a difference between failure and failing. And I think that you never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. I love that. And so it's okay. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to fail, but you just live to fight another day. Yeah, so important. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us, taking the time to speak to our community and just share these insights and set such an amazing overview. On behalf of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us. It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and happy Women's History Month, everybody. Happy Women's History Month. And thank you to everyone in attendance for joining us. We'd love for you to join us for upcoming webinars, which you can view using the link in the chat. And we look forward to welcoming you all back online with us soon.